Today I'm testing out the Vacutrim, which is an as seen on TV trimmer. It has a couple of interesting features. One, it has an adjustable dial so you don't have to have a bunch of attachments. Number two, it has a vacuum built into it so you don't get whiskers all over the counter. It sounds pretty good if it works. So let's try it out in today's video. Before I get started, let's flash back to the unboxing and see how that went. All right, let's take a closer look at the Vacutrim. I paid $39.95 for this plus $3.95 tax and free shipping for a total of $43.30 direct from the official website. They say it has an ultra sharp stainless steel blade that reduces irritation, built-in dial with 20 trim lines, mess-free due to its built-in vac that captures hair. Can also be used on the stomach, chest, or back. The Amazon comments, if you trust them, are pretty good for it. A lot of people say that they like the vacuum feature, although some people say it doesn't work 100%. Got some instructions, which I will look over. Here is the unit itself. It's bigger than I'm used to. Most of the trimmers I've had are smaller than this. Got this dial here that raises it up. Oh, that's kind of cool. I like that feature. That's kind of nice. Instead of having to fish around for different attachments. Got another attachment, some sort of an oil and a charger. So I'm going to read these over and I'll come back and show you anything else that I gleaned from the instructions. All right, so to test out the Vacutrim, I only have so many whiskers, so I have to kind of make this count, right? I'm going to compare it against my old tried and true wall trimmer, which I've been using for years. So maybe it's kind of a softball comparing a brand new trimmer versus an old one, but this one's been a workhorse. I've used it for years and it's worked fine for me. So hopefully you can at least hang with my wall trimmer and maybe even outperform it. All right, so after unboxing and reading the instructions, I got a few more observations. First of all, it comes with two attachments, a long and a short. I'm only using the short today because my whiskers aren't really that long. To add the attachment, all you do is stick it in there and it snaps into place. Now there's a dial here. You can see there's numbers 1 and 11. 1 is for the short attachment and 11 is for the long one. So you can go from 1 up to 10 or 11 up to 20. And when I turn on my wall trimmer, it sounds like a trimmer. When I turn on the vacuum trim, it sounds like a vacuum. The Vacutrim is a little bit bigger, it's a little bit heavier, but it also has that nice vacuum feature and only needs 2 attachments instead of a bunch of them like this one has. So I'm kind of optimistic. I really hope this one works because I kind of like the features, just hopefully they're well implemented. All right, so what I'm gonna do, because I only have so many whiskers I can shave off, is I'm gonna do multiple passes on each side. One side's gonna be shaved by the vacuum trim and the other one by the wall trimmer. I'm gonna start on my wall trimmer with a number 2 attachment, and I'm gonna have the vacuum trim set to number 2 on this side. I'm gonna do a 2, a 1, and a 0, and then we'll see how it turns out. I also have this white poster board down here to collect any trimmings. Hopefully the Vacutrim doesn't have many, but we shall see. If all goes well, I'll have a pile from the wall trimmer and nothing from the Vacutrim, but we shall see how it goes. That's kind of unfortunate. This morning I was just noticing that my beard looked about as well as I like it to look. Now I have to get rid of it. But I'm not, by the way, I'm not getting rid of everything. I have to go to a goatee. You don't want to see me without any facial hair, and neither do I. So we're gonna go to a goatee and that's it. But I've got 2 cheeks full of whiskers here that I can work with on this video, and that's what I'm gonna do. First up, we're gonna do the control trimmer, which is the wall trimmer. I'm gonna do the attachment number 2, and we'll see how it goes. Here we go. Oh, I hear a lot going on this time. Oh yeah. I don't really have a mirror to work with, so hopefully I got most of it here. All right, look at all that. That's a lot. That's just from one side too. That is a lot of whiskers. I'm gonna kind of put these in a pile and try the Vacutrim. So it's a bit of a different technique from the wall trimmer versus the Vacutrim, but let's take a look and see how much hair fell. So it looks like so far, it's not 100%, but it's certainly better. I want to keep kind of a running tally of whiskers, so I need to kind of keep these in separate here. All right, so far I think the Vacutrim's working pretty well, but I got more to do. We're gonna go to the wall trimmer and switch this to the number 1 attachment. Now for the Vacutrim, all we have to do is just turn this dial. Much faster, much easier. So switching attachments, the Vacutrim has a clear advantage. As far as dropping whiskers goes, right now the Vacutrim also has an advantage. We've got a little bit longer to go before we make a final decision though, but so far I'm kind of happy about this. I don't always have a lot of luck with as seen on TV products, but so far we're off to a good start today. But let's keep going. Here we go. Wall trimmer, attachment number 1. Let's do a quick whisker check. Here we are with the number 1. That's quite a few. That's the original pile with the number 2. Now with the number 1, here they are. They're going to be obviously smaller whiskers. Let me slide those over and keep going. Time for the Vacutrim with the number 1 setting. I was going to say number 1 attachment, but it's actually the same attachment with a different setting, which I kind of like. All right, what's interesting is that this one is a little bit shorter than this side. The Vacutrim side is a little bit shorter than the wall side, and there are significantly less whiskers. Check this out. All right, over here, this is all we've got from the number 1 Vacutrim setting versus this for the number 1 attachment on the wall. Certainly less on the countertop. The Vacutrim is on a roll. All right, we've got one more setting to go, and that is no attachment whatsoever. So that's where we go against the skin here. Interestingly, on the last round, the wall did not go as short as the Vacutrim, even though it was both number 1. But here we go, final round. First up, wall trimmer. All right, that's about as close as it's gonna get. Here is the closeness of the wall trimmer. It's down to basically stubble at this point. It feels like a 5 o'clock shadow. All right, Vacutrim, no attachment. After the final round, it looks like the closeness is about the same. I'm taking a look at the results here. On the left side is the wall trimmer, on the right side is the Vacutrim. This is with the number 2 attachment, number 1 attachment, no attachment. Clearly less whiskers left behind from the Vacutrim, so in that respect, it certainly works well. Now, as far as closeness goes, it was weird because it seemed like the first round they were about the same. The second round, it seemed like the Vacutrim was closer. On the third round, it seemed like the wall was closer, so a little bit of variation there. But overall, I think that performance-wise, the Vacutrim certainly hung with the wall trimmer, so in that respect, it worked well too. Let's open up the Vacutrim and see what's inside. Oh, there we go, look at that. All of these would have been on my counter and they're now inside. So it did do something. It did do something, and it prevented a lot of whiskers from being on the counter. 100%? No, but I would say at least 50%. All right, so in the end, I've been using this for a couple days, and here are some final observations. First up, I kind of trimmed the edges around my goatee to kind of clean it up. It worked perfectly well for that. I did try it on my head, but I like a smooth shave, and this isn't really designed for smooth shaves. But if you like to shave your head and leave some on top, it will work well for that. I did try for some body hair, and it was perfectly fine in that case too. My body hair is kind of light, doesn't really show up on camera, but I did try it in a couple places, and it did work. The instructions say that it's IPX6, but they also say not to use it with wet hands or in the shower, so it really isn't a wet shaver. So in the end, I think the Vacutrim, and this might be kind of a surprise for an Nasty on TV product, but I think it kind of lives up to the advertising hype. I say kind of because they make it look like all the hair is collected, but that's not the case. I found about half the hair was collected, but to me, half is a pretty big improvement. Anyone who's trimmed their beard over a sink or counter knows what kind of a problem whiskers can be, especially when you share a space with someone else. So a 50% improvement to me is pretty big. I really like the dial here where you can adjust the level without having to change attachments. That's a nice feature. So I'm kind of a fan of the Vacutrim. I'm going to keep using it. If anything changes, I will let you know. But now it's time for me to start growing this back. But I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time.